Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial. My name is Agnes. Before we get into the tutorial, I just wanted to say thank you so much for 200,000 subscribers. Yay! We are at 200 in 3 years and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you that subscribed to the channel, and I really appreciate all of you. So in today's tutorial, we want to do this top-down meshy dress. This is the first time I'm doing a top-down dress and I was excited to try it out. So it's quite easy. You can make it in any size that you want. I'll be telling you what measurements you'll take so that you can make it in your size. And I used an easy stitch, which is the granny stitch, though I didn't use 3 double crochets. I used only 2 double crochets because I tried the 3 but it looked heavy, so I went with only 2. So let's just get into the tutorial and yeah, have fun. So for this tutorial, I'll be using a 3.5mm hook. You can use any hook recommended by your yarn size. I'll use a tape measure. And for the yarn, I'm using this yarn from Volido. It's 100% cotton yarn. It's mercerized. And I have 10 of these. I'm not sure if there will be enough, but yeah, I'll make something that fits 10. Then I also need scissors. So we are just going to start. So we are going to be starting from top to bottom. And so this is the first time I'm doing this dress. It's just in my mind and I am not following any pattern. Oh, so I'm just going along with it and you're going to go along with me. So I want to start from the neckline. So since we want to wear it from top down and we want to make it all in one piece, I'm just going to start by making a foundation chain that is equivalent to our head circumference, that can fit our head. So I'll just make some chains and stretch it around my head and make sure it is able to pass through my head downwards, okay, over my head, because when we wear the dress we want to pass it over our head. Okay, so I'm just going to chain and stretch it over around my head, and once it fits then I will come back to you. Do the same. This is what I have, and this goes over my head. I just held it here on both ends and then passed it over my head, and it goes over my head. So I'll just measure it for you and see how many inches it is. Okay, so I'm folding it into 2, but it is about 10 inches when folded, 10.5, so which means it's about 21 inches long. Okay, and this goes over my head. So what we'll do is we are going to go into, let's make this straight first. All right, and then go into our first stitch, our first chain, and then close it off. So we are making the round neck area, which is this. Okay, so to start on the first round, we are going to be working rounds, and we are going to chain 3. This chain 3 will count as a stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go into this same chain space and make a double crochet. So that's 2 double crochets. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip 2 chains, and into the third one I will make 2 double crochets into that very chain. Okay, so it's 2 double crochets in one, then chain 1, skip 2, and into the third one 2 double crochets, chain 1, skip 2, and into the third one 2 double crochets, and that's going to be the pattern. Chain 1, skip 2, and into the third one 2 double crochets. Initially I wanted to make 3 double crochets, but then I thought it would be too heavy, so yeah, I changed to 2. So you're going to do that until you come back around here, and I will meet you. So I'm coming to the end, and I'm going to skip this 2, then do my 2 double crochets in one stitch in the third stitch, and then chain 1, and I'm remaining with only 1, and if you're remaining with 2, that's okay. And I'll go just straight on top of this, chain 3, and make a slip stitch like this. So we have our round ready. Okay, my stitches, I'm not making my stitches tight because I want it to be like that, but you can make yours tight if you want to. So I'm going to chain 3, and then I will turn my work. So I'll be working from side and then turn work once the round is over. So excuse me, I'll chain 3, yarn over, and in this space here, in this chain space, I will make a double crochet. This counts as a double crochet, so that's our first one. And then I'll chain 1, and then skip over this, and then go into the next chain space, and then make 2 double crochets in that chain space. You could work with 3 double crochets, but I just didn't want it to be heavy, and I don't have so much yarn, so I'm just working with what I have. So chain 1, go into the next chain space and make 2 double crochets. Chain 1, next chain space, and make 2 double crochets. Like this. This is what I'm working with, okay? So I'm just going to go around until I'm back here, and then I'll come show you how we do the increases. So I came to the end of the round, and I want to close it off. So you chain a 1, and then close off with a slip stitch on top of the chain 3 that is here. Okay, so now we are going to go to the next round, and for the next round it's going to be chain 3, turn your work, and we're going to start making increases. So we'll make 10 clusters, which means I go into this and make this cluster. We already have a chain. Why is my phone not focusing? Okay, so these are 2, and I'm going to just go straight on and make 9 others. So once I'm on the 11th, I will come show you how to make an increase. So it's just going to be the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll make 5 more, then come do the increase. Okay? I changed my hook because I don't like working with this. This one is easier for me. So, and I've done 10 clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I need to make an increase. So I'll chain 1, and I'll go into this chain space here, and then work a cluster, then chain 1, and into that same space work another cluster. Okay, so I have 2 clusters separated by chain 1, then chain 1, and then continue as usual. So I'll again work 10 clusters and then do my second increment. So we are going to be increasing after every 10 clusters, okay? So I'm going to do 10, and once I'm done around here, then I'll make another increase just like this, and I'll do that until I'm back to where I started, okay? So in this round, I only did 2 increases here and then here. So I'm coming to the end of the round, and I'm going to chain 1, then close it off on top of the chain 3, make a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3, turn my work, and start again. So I'll do the pattern. Once I get to 10 clusters, then make an increase in the 11th. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that, increasing after every 10 clusters, and once I have my bust measurements, then I'll come and we put the armholes. So make sure you take your bust measurements, and once you reach your bust measurements, then stop increasing. So here I'm just checking how far I've come. I already have my bust measurements. I wanted to see how far it is, and I want to add more rows without increasing because I want it to get up to underarm here, around here. This is where I need it to be before I put the armholes. All right, so I added a few more rows without increasing, and what I have is about 5.5 inches long, and wide is my bust measurements, which is 31. So since it is into 2, from side to side, it should be half of 31. Half of 31 is 15.5. All right, so 15.5 on one side and 15.5 on the other side makes a total of 31, which is my bust measurements. Okay, so you increase until you get your bust measurements. Once you have your bust measurements, stop increasing. So just continue doing like before, and until you get to your underarm, like I showed you on the picture where I was measuring. Okay, for the armholes, I took measurements around my arm, my upper arm, around here. I put my tape measure around there. You do the same. And mine was 9.5, so I added just, it was 9.5, so I will approximately make it 10. So what I will do is I will divide that into 3. So on one side, I will do 3.5, like here. I'll put... what is it called, 3.5. I'll put a stitch marker on the other side, also a 3.5. So I will just mark these 2 spaces here with stitch markers, and then that makes it 7, and the remainder 3 I will make a chain with that. Okay, so let me put a stitch marker. So measure around your arm and divide by 3. Divide that by 3. So mine was 9.5 around my arm. I just made it, added 0.5 to make it 10. And then I did 3.5, 3.5, and then 3 inches. I'll make that in chain. Okay, so I'll just keep the same number of clusters from the side to here where the 3.5 is inches, and on the other side I will also skip the same number of clusters. So I want to add the chain now. So what I will do is reattach my yarn where my stitch marker was. Okay, and this is on the side. So I am going to make a chain that is equivalent to 3 inches. So I reattach my yarn in that chain space, and I am going to make a chain that is equivalent to 3 inches because I already have 3.5 on the other side, and then plus 3, which makes it 10. So you will need to take your upper arm measurements. So let's see, I have 15. Yeah, that's a little bit too much, so I'm just going to remove about 2 chains. Let's see, 2 chains off, and I need 3 inches. So 3 inches, that is the right measurements, because I had 3.5, 3.5, then 3 inches. So 3 inches, and I'm going to attach on the other side where I had my stitch marker. I already know how many clusters those are, so I will just attach to the side. This is where my side is, and then the same number of clusters there, and then I attach in that chain space and close this off with a slip stitch. So that will be my armhole. Okay, so this right here will be my armhole. If you want your armhole bigger, then you can add more inches, but I wanted mine to be as big as my upper arm. Okay, so I cut that off, and close it off like this. Okay, just to make it secure, and then I'm going to go to the other side and do the exact same thing. But when I'm on the other side, don't cut your yarn, because then you need to work one sleeve first. Okay, so I'll do the same on the other side. So get your yarn, and we are going to make the same number of clusters that we skipped. We'll skip the same number. Reattach your yarn here. And then chain the same number of chains, and I'm going to chain, I think it was 13, because it was 15 at first, and then I removed 2 chains. So let's see. All right, so I have my 13 chains, and I'm going to attach on the other side. I count the same number of clusters, and right here. Then we are going to work now the normal clusters all around, leaving this armhole there. Okay, so I am going to chain 3, and we are going to work on the chain first. Not there. We work around the chain first, because yeah. So this is the first cluster, then you skip 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain you make another cluster. We are working clusters again. Skip 2 chains, 3rd cluster, 3rd chain, make a cluster, chain 1, skip 2 chains, 3rd one, make a cluster. So what did you do the whole day? Chain 1, skip 2 chains. You got all your presents? And make a cluster. You got all your presents? Yeah. All of them? Mm-hmm. Really? Chain 1. And now I have these chain spaces, because I'm back to where I was working before. And you're just going to go into the chain spaces, making clusters, then chain 1, skip, and make a cluster in the next chain space. And it's the same pattern until I get to where I have the other chain on the other side. All right, so just work. You see how I'm working? So now I'm working on the body, leaving the armholes alone. Okay, So I'm just going to continue like this until I'm here where I have the chain, and then I will work on that chain. So I went like this. I'm here where I have the chain, and I'll put a cluster in this chain space here, and then chain 1, and I will skip 2, and into the third chain I'll make a cluster. Chain 1, skip 2, into the third one make a cluster, and it's basically the same pattern. So we are chaining 1, skip 2 chains and make a cluster until we are back to where we have the clusters already. Make sure you have the same number of clusters on both sides, that's around the chain, so that you don't have one side bigger than the other. Here I was definitely confused, and I needed to count these to make sure I have the same. I will just go into this one and make that. I had 3 chains there, so I will just skip all of them because I don't want to have more clusters than I have on the other side. Okay, so then now I will start working. This is me just counter checking and trying to think if I'm doing the right thing. So I found I had less clusters on this side, so I decided to just work to skip 2, and now then I just go into that chain space. So now they match. All right, so everything is good now. So I continue with the pattern because here it's very clear, and I will go around until I get to where I started. All around until I get here. So I went all around, and this is going to be my last cluster, and then I'll chain 1 and close it off with a slip stitch on top of that, chain 3. All right, so I chain 3, turn my work, and now everything is good here. So now the pattern becomes easier because everything is established. It's just same thing, going around, going around, going around. And so I'll start with a cluster here, chain 1, go into the next chain space, make a cluster, chain 1, go into the next chain space and make a cluster, and it's the same pattern all over again. And I'll continue doing this until I have I am below my boobs. Then I can make reductions to cater for my waist. Okay, so I will show you a video of when I'm trying it on so that you can see what I'm talking about. So just keep going around until you're below your boobs. So this is what I mean. As you see, we're dealing with our bust measurements, and it's quite big. So now we need to deal with our waist measurements. So once I'm below my boobs, right below my boobs, then I need to make reductions. Okay, so I am going to start making reductions until I have my waist measurements. Okay, so make reductions until I have my waist measurements. So this is before I make reductions. So what you saw on the video, this is how many inches I have. And this is about 10.5 long from top to here. 10.5. So now I want to start making reductions to cater for my waist. So this is how we're going to do it, and I am going to work. I'm going to work 10 clusters. No, I'm going to work 7 clusters before my reduction. So my waist measurements is 26. So once I have 26, then I will stop reducing. But at first I show you how to reduce. Okay, so let's count them and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'll be reducing in every 8th cluster. So to reduce, I will make only 1 double crochet in the space and then go straight into the next chain space without chaining 1 and make 1 double crochet. Do you see it? Then chain 1 and now continue with the usual. So I reduced because I made 1 double crochet in 1 chain space and went straight into the next chain space and made another double crochet without a chain in between. And then now I just continue with the clusters until I have 7 clusters, and then I make another reduction like that. 7 clusters, then I reduce. 7 clusters, then I reduce. I'll show you one more time how I did the reducing. So in my 8th cluster, I will make a reduction. So let's see. This is where I made a reduction, so that doesn't count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I make a reduction. So I go in here with 1 double crochet. Then I go into the next chain space with 1 double crochet, right? I made a reduction, and then that's when I chain a 1. Okay, so you're going to do this reduction until you get to the end of the row. Do reduction after every 7 clusters, and then I will meet you at the end of the row. So I'm coming to the end of the row, and I ended with a reduction because that was my 8th and 9th stitches. So I'll just close this off with a slip stitch, and then for the next row I'll chain 3 and then make a cluster, then chain 1. You see, this is where I made a reduction, so we are going to go into where we have the chain space. So don't work between the 2 single clusters, the 2 single crochets, 2 single double crochets. You know what I mean. So just work in the chain spaces. Don't forget and put your stitch in between where we made reductions. So for this row, we will not make any reductions. So we'll be doing a row of reduction, then a row of no reduction. So I'll meet you at the end here once we don't have reduction. Okay, so the next row will be a row of reduction. So I'm coming to the end of my row. This row I did not make any reductions. Okay, so we close it off with a slip stitch and then chain 3, turn our work, and for this row it's going to be where we make reductions. So you are going to make 7 clusters, and then in the 8th you make a reduction. You reduce in the 8th and 9th. Okay, my phone has a problem. It used to have a very good focus, but it has fallen down 1,000 times, and now the camera has an issue. It just can't focus, and it's annoying, really, because you can't see what I'm doing so clearly. And yeah, I need to save for a new phone. All right, so now we need to make a reduction. Let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Yeah, so we are going to make a reduction. So that's 1 double crochet in that chain space, and then go straight into the next chain space, make a double crochet, and then chain 1 and continue with your clusters. So you are just going to continue doing this one row of reduction, then the next row no reduction until you have your waist measurements. My waist measurements is 26, so I will do until I have 26. Once I have 26 inches, then I stop reducing. So I just maintain the same number of clusters or the same number of stitches until I get to where my belly button is. Okay, and then we'll cater for the way downwards. So I went all the way up to my waist measurements, and once I had my waist measurements, I stopped decreasing and I continued with no decreases until I was at here where I have my belly button. Okay, so and I wanted to tell you how many inches I have, and this is about 15 inches long from top to where I am now is 15 inches, and now I want to increase to cater for hips. So you will do the same once you at your belly button, then you start to increase to cater for your hips so that can be able to fit. So like I said, I made decreases until I had my waist measurement. So this is 13 inches, which times 2 because this is half of it, then it makes it 26. Okay, all right, so we are going to now work on our increases. So for the increases, you already did that for the top side, so I'll just show you just how we do it once more. So I'm going to do clusters, that is the third, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now I want to make increases. So in that very same space, I'll make other 2 double crochets. So it's like what we did at the top. You make 10 clusters, and then in the 11th you're making an increase. So you will keep increasing until you have your hips measurements minus 5 inches. So take your hips measurements, remove 5 inches, and that is what you'll have. Keep increasing until you have that, and once you have that, then stop increasing. So this is where I am at. I increased until I had enough and then stopped increasing, and I want to show you how below I want to make the slit. I already have my hat for the slit, but before that I wanted to do the sleeves. So I want to show you how to do the sleeves, and once I measure from top to bottom, I do have 21 inches, and that's where I want to put my slit. So I did one sleeve already, so I want to show you how I did that. Okay, so we are going to reattach our yarn, and for this I will attach here in the middle because I want it to be the joining part to be under the arm so that it's not visible. So you can also do the same. I'll join in this chain space here. This is just to secure it, and then I'll chain 3 because I already chained 1 down there, so I'll just chain 2. So I'm going to work a cluster in here. So I will add a double crochet to make a cluster, then chain 1 and go into the next chain space, make a cluster. It's quite obvious there, so just go into the chain spaces, making clusters. Remember to chain 1 in between and just go around. Go around until where you started, okay? So I went all around and I'm coming towards the end. So I'll just work the last clusters here with you. Chain 1, next cluster, chain 1, and I will close this off by making a slip stitch on top of the chain 3. So now we're going to the next round. So chain 3, turn your work, and the same pattern. So I'll make a cluster by making a double crochet here and then chain 1, then go into the next chain space, make a cluster, chain 1, make a cluster, and you're just going to keep repeating this. Since our sleeves, I want them to be tight at the bottom too, so I will just keep making one reduction in every, like after every 5 rows. So you can do the same after like every 5 rows, make a reduction, one reduction after every like 5 rows, and then your sleeve will keep reducing so that it fits your arm very perfectly. Okay, so you can do like after every 5 rows, you can do 6 rows, you can do after every 8 rows, depending on how tight you want it to be. So once you're done, do the 2 sleeves. But I want to do the edging on the sleeve, so I'll come show you how we do that. It's just a row of half double crochet and single crochet, but I'll show you how to do that. So I'm done with my sleeve, and this is how long it is. Let's see, this is where I started, so I'm going to measure that, and that looks like 15, 16, 17 inches. So 17 inches, that's how long mine is, but I'm a short person, so yours could be longer, could be 18, 19, I don't know. Just measure yourself from under your arm to your wrist area, and then you can stop. And now we do the half double crochet row. So I'm working this on the right side, doesn't matter how I ended the row, I'll work this on the right side. Okay, so we are going to be making half double crochets in every stitch. So I'll go in here with a half double crochet, go into the chain space with a half double crochet, and then on top of these 2 double crochets, I'll go in each with a half double crochet in each stitch to the next stitch, which is this chain space, half double crochet, and then on top of those 2 double crochets, I'll make one half double crochet in each. So make one half double crochet in every stitch all around, and I will meet you at the end of the round. So once you're done, then we'll do the single crochet row. See? Yeah. So I'm coming to the end and close it off by chaining, slip stitching on top of the chain 2, then chain 1, and we are going to work single crochets in every stitch all around. So make a single crochet in every stitch all around. You could also to choose to do, I don't know, 2 rows of half double crochets or something, but yeah, this is how I did it. So do that. Once you're up here, close it off with a slip stitch and cut, then do the other sleeve. So this is me. I have 2 sleeves ready. I am putting my slit here, so I will mark this with a stitch marker. Just determine where you want to put your slit. Once you have it on, then you can mark that space. Okay, so yeah, excuse me. So this is where I was beginning and ending my rows, and that is done with that. Now we want to start and end our rows here where I have my stitch marker, so that's where I want to put my slit. So I have about these, I skipped about these clusters, and this is where it is. So my slit will be here. All right, so we are going to be working from side to side now, not in rounds, but from side to side. So I will reattach my yarn where my slit is supposed to be, here. And I will chain 3. This is to make my work more firm, so that makes it 3 chains. And I'll go into that chain space and make 1 double crochet to make a cluster, chain 1, then go into the next chain space, make a cluster, and it's basically the same pattern. So I'll just go around with clusters until I have 1 cluster in between where I started and where I'm ending, and then I will show you what to do next. Okay, so just go around like this until we are back somewhere here. I went all around and I have 1 cluster in between. So on my last one, I'll just make a double crochet there. Okay, so I'll chain 3, turn my work. So we are not closing off anything, we're now working from side to side. So here I am going to work a cluster in between here. Okay, so mark how I'm starting my rows and how I'm ending them. So chain 1, go into the next and make a cluster. Go into the next, make a cluster, and you're going to do that until you're at the end of the row, and I will meet you to finish it off. Okay, so I'm coming to the end, and please note how I'm finishing my rows. So we will not be making any increases here. Okay, should be the same number of rows on every row, same number of stitches on every row. So to close it off, you see this chain 3, I'll go on top of it and make 1 double crochet. Okay, so then chain 3, turn my work and make a cluster. So I'm ending with a double crochet and beginning with a cluster. So if you want your slit to be wider, which I did with mine, I made a decrease on one of the rows. After this, I didn't show it. But if you don't want it to be wider, you don't have to do that. Just made a decrease at the beginning and at the end of the row, only 1 row, okay, and then it became wider. So just repeat this if you don't want it wider until you are at the end. So I went all the way down until my yarn was finished. I had just this left, okay, and I needed it for the neckline. So I did single crochets all around here I went up with single crochet, and then I went down, and then I went at the bottom like this. Yeah, as you can see, I am doing 2 single crochets in every stitch. So I'm doing like in the middle of the stitch and at the top of the stitch, in the middle of the stitch and at the top of the stitch. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I did this while I was in the car traveling, so I didn't get to record it. But yeah, it's just single crochets, 2 single crochets in every stitch. Okay, so once I was done with that too, I did the neckline, and I did this because my neckline was a bit big and I wanted to reduce it because my yarn is kind of, it stretches. So I just decided to put 1 double crochet in the space and then 1 double crochet on top of the stitch, 1 double crochet in the space, 1 double crochet on top of the stitch. And once I was done with that, the next row I did just 1 double crochet in every stitch, and once I was done with that, then I did a single crochet row. Okay, and then once I was done, I sewed in my ends, and this is how it looks like on me. I love that dress. It's just giving me those Barbie vibes. And yeah, I hope you like it too. If you do, please give this video a thumbs up. If it was helpful, share it with your friends and in your groups. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for 200,000 subscribers. I could not do this without you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your support. And yeah, I am grateful. So thank you, and thank you. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye guys.